Episode 128, Real Goals. Welcome to How to Glow, where we get real about building the marriage of your dreams. I'm certified coach Kayla Levin, and I help married Jewish women go from surviving and overwhelmed to thriving and connected through practical tips, real-life inspiration, and more than a little self-awareness along the way. Hello, my friends. Before we get started, I just want to say that I have two kiddos homesick today, so you might hear some coughing or some Lego in the background. And it's actually really perfect for today's episode, and I'll tell you why as we continue. This is podcast number 3 out of the 4 self-mastery skills that I wanted to offer you as we're leading into the How to Glow launch, which is this time next week, next Sunday. It's going to be Hanukkah, and the doors are going to be open. I'm so excited. And of course, the week leading into Hanukkah is when I get horribly sick. And the week leading into the launch, right, is when I get horribly sick and my kids get horribly sick. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And again, perfect for this week's episode. So we've spoken so far about managing your emotions, which is, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, it's really not what it sounds like. When I hear managing your emotions, I imagine myself as a relatively emotional young girl being told to manage her feelings, right? Get it together, kind of, right? I don't think my parents necessarily ever said that to me. I'm not sure. But just kind of that message of which really meant deny them or don't act on them or stuff them down. That's not at all what we're doing in coaching. So if you haven't heard that episode yet, you should check that one out. The next episode was staying in your own lane. This is a huge one for marriage, but it really can help affect you in a lot of places. And today we're going to talk about real goals. I think, in the coaching world, goals are huge and for good reason. And you'll see that with different coaches or different coaching philosophies, there can be more or less emphasis on the goals, and they can be done in very different ways. What I think is important for you to consider when you're setting goals is 2 things. Especially, I'm focusing on, the married Jewish woman, the things that are going on in your life, right? How you can set a goal that's meaningful for you. So number 1 is that you need a goal that means something to you, not just a goal that's rehashed from someone else. Okay. So I had this with my business. In most business coaching that I'm familiar with, the goal is a financial goal. That is what you shoot for. And so for a very long time, I was setting financial goals for my business until I realized that that's not really the goal that means the most to me. Money can be very helpful. I have nothing wrong with money, but it wasn't my primary goal, meaning I could have just doubled my one-on-one prices again. I could have just continued to charge more and work with more exclusive audiences. It's not what I wanted to do, right? What I really wanted to do with How to Glow is to be able to reach more women, to have really a cultural impact, a community impact in a much bigger way. That meant so much more to me than hitting a certain income goal. And so it was important. It's important for everyone to consider whether it's a business goal or a personal goal or a health goal, especially with a health goal. What's a health goal that means something to you? It's probably not a number on a scale. It probably has to do with how you can function over the course of a week, right? Or maybe it's how you treat yourself in regards to your health, how you're modeling for your children maybe, right? So first of all, I want to make sure that when you're setting a goal, you're really focusing on something that really means something to you. And it's probably not going to be some cliche goal that fits into, all the marketing that you see around you. The other piece, and this is really inspired by the work of Miriam Cosman. So if you know of her book, Circle, Arrow, Spiral, I find it to be one of the most incredible books that I've read. I think I've shared on the podcast before that I committed to reading it over the course of a year, and it took me the entire year to read because I really wanted to internalize it and think it through and not just read it when I was not really energetic and focused enough to really get the material from it. And one of the things that she talks about is the feminine versus masculine energy. And I thought this was so interesting as a coach because the feminine energy is a circle energy. It's an environment energy. It's a relating energy, right? It's what's the experience going to be in my home during Hanukkah, right? And you see that that's very feminine, right? What does Martha Stewart do? Not that she's necessarily the most feminine person I can imagine, but what is she doing? She's setting the stage. She's decorating the table. Look at all the mishpacha, tablescapes and meals, and it's just creating an environment. That's a circle goal, and it's still can be a goal. At least that's the way I use it in coaching, right? That's how I took her work and adapted it for the coaching that I do, which is sometimes the goal that we want is a circle goal. I want to create a certain kind of environment. I want to lay the stage for a certain kind of relationship. And sometimes the goal is the masculine goal. And women can have both feminine and masculine goals. It's not a problem. So the masculine goal is the arrow goal, which is, you see that personified by Western culture. In America, we're all about making that next $100,000 or getting that next fancier car. It's all external. It's all visual. It's a SMART goal, right? If you've ever learned SMART goals, that they're specific and measurable and attainable and realistic and time bound. These are goals that I can check the box when I have done them. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're not the only option. So I want you to think about that when you're setting goals, that it's okay if your goal doesn't have a checkbox. It doesn't have a finish line. Your goal can have to do with what you want the environment of your year to be, what you want Hanukkah to be like in your family, what you want Shabbos to be like. It could be both, and you probably are going to have a mix of both, because we really do have that mix of masculine, feminine energies. I see in certain areas of my life, it serves me much better to be in my feminine energy. And in other areas of my life, it very much serves me to be in my masculine energy. So I love that. I embrace that. And I find that to be very, very helpful. One thing I learned recently, which I'll just share, this is not like a Torah podcast. It's killing me that I can't remember the source for it. So if anyone knows, please let me know and I'll share it on the next podcast. But it said that since Adam and Chava, there's never been 100% masculine and 100% feminine. Like, it's been a mix ever since then, which is why that women enjoy having arrow goals sometimes, right? We have areas in our life where we do want to check that box, right? So those are the first two things I want you to really consider, which is when you're setting a goal, I want you to really think about a goal that means something to you, not a cliche goal, not something that you just heard someone else have, and to consider that your goal might not always be an arrow goal. It could also be a circle goal. Now I want to take a second to talk about the value of a goal. Okay, so whatever kind of goal you choose, why is this even important? Why do we want to set a goal? I think you really, really want to set a goal. I think it's really helpful. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that a lot of what I focus on, really the primary thing I focus on, is thinking that is productive versus noticing the thinking that is not productive, right? Is this thinking helping me in how I want to be showing up in my life, in the life that I want to be creating, in the relationships that I want to be creating? Or is this thinking self-sabotaging? Is this thinking creating a lot of victimization or a lot of blame or a lot of guilt? Any of these emotions that really are not getting me towards my goal. Our brains, when left to their own devices, are going to veer towards the negative. When left to their own devices, your brain's going to want to find out what's wrong, what could be better, what needs to change, what's not quite satisfying enough, right? And you've all probably experienced that on some level. When you have a goal, you're giving your brain something to chew on. You're giving your brain something to think intentionally about. You're giving your brain something to be busy with. So instead of kind of just drifting into the land of like random negativity, you can pull yourself back into something real, right? And some people actually make a goal of just having an ayin tova or being more grateful. But you see how it's actually a goal. Like, no, I'm trying to be a more grateful person, so I want to think more grateful thoughts. And then that gives them a new place to go with their brain. Or it might be that the grateful thoughts are what serve you towards the bigger goal that you have, which is maybe to be a more loving wife and mother. Or maybe the goal is to be more productive, and having gratitude makes you get out of your victim mode and helps you take care of your home in a different way or show up at work in a different way, right? So know that your brain needs to be busy with something. And when you give it a goal, you give it something really productive. And not only does this save you from the negativity, but your brain will be busy with something. So it's almost like you have this like virtual assistant that's just sitting around waiting. And it's like, well, I guess I'll just tell you what's wrong with your business unless you tell me what else to do. So it's just going to make a list of everything it thinks you could be doing better, right? And then You're like, hey, actually, I'd really like to declutter. I'd like my house to not be so cluttered. I'd like to really focus on, my master bedroom. That's the goal that I have right now for the next month. And your brain's like, okay, fine. So now your virtual assistant is either going to work decluttering or thinking about how we could declutter or how we want to go about it or any challenges that might come up, right? It's like your brain is there available to do the work. So why would you just let it sit there wasting time when it could be working towards something that you could really benefit from? This is really the value of the marriage check-in, which if you're not on my email list, it's something that I give you in the first email that you get I just have like a couple emails that go out to you when you first sign up for my email list at kaylalevin.com. And the first thing I give you is this little marriage check-in. It's a mini workbook, and it just gives you an idea of like, how am I thinking about my marriage? How do I want to be thinking about my marriage? Like, what's going on for me here? Why is this important? Because I want to know where I'm at so I can start thinking towards what are my goals. I don't want to just be in my marriage. I want to be intentionally in my marriage. I want to be experiencing my marriage, and I want to be creating something here, not just like at the effect of like, oh, I guess I feel it's not that great. I guess my emotions are not so wonderful today. Like, what am I creating? What is my goal here? Setting goals will always keep you in a proactive mode versus a reactive mode. Okay? Again, if I'm in a reactive mode because I don't have a goal, so I'm just like, the life is happening, and then I just kind of like, I feel like very tossed about, right? This happened. I don't think I like it. I'm going to spin out. I'm going to worry about that. I'm going to like I'm going to call someone. We're going to worry together some more. Now I'm really worried. Now I can't sleep. Now I'm going to stay up late on my phone, right? Reactive mode. Yeah. But if I have a really specific goal with my life, or even in the specific area of my life, then I can't be so reactive because everything is seen within the context of that goal, right? So something happens in my life, but I know that I'm focused on building a more open relationship with my kids, let's say. Okay, so what does this have to do with my goal of building a more open relationship with my kids? Where does this fit? Maybe it's irrelevant. Maybe I'm just going to ignore this problem. Maybe this problem needs to be dealt with so that my energy can be freed back up to refocus on my kids. Okay, so let's go deal with the problem, get it done, get back to the kids, right? I don't spin out. It doesn't take over my life. It doesn't become the whole center of my life. This little piece, which maybe sounds so obvious, to me is probably one of the biggest benefits that I've personally experienced with having coaching be a part of my life for the last probably 7 years at this point. Not just being a coach, but getting coached, is that it's had me show up in so much more of a proactive way that I don't feel like I'm just at the effect of everything in my life and like my mood depends on what happened and what didn't happen, but I'm so much more just contained and I feel so much more focused. I really think that this is one of the biggest benefits that coaching can offer us. It's just living life with like just a bit more intention so that we are showing up in a very different way, and it's just such a nicer headspace to be in. When you have a specific goal, problems are only dealt with if they're relevant. Okay? That means instead of just noticing every problem that comes up in my life and trying to decide if I should deal with it and how much energy I can put into it, and I'm not sure, and I kind of had to get that other thing done today, but maybe this is bigger. I don't need to notice every problem in every area of life. I just need to notice if there's any stumbling blocks between me and my goal. I know that personally, when I don't have a goal to chew on, my brain has so many problems to suggest to me, and they're all vital and they're all important right this very second. They all need to be dealt with right now. And this is even when I have a goal, but I'm like just lost track of it, or I'm not thinking about it in the moment, or I have a goal for my business, but now I'm with my family and I didn't set a goal with my family time. So then that just sort of starts to feel very hefker and very like, okay, whatever comes up, I'll just deal with it, right? So I want you to like really think about what areas in your life do you feel more reactive, and what's the goal that you can set in that area. Okay, the last part that I want to talk to you about here is something that I think is really, really under discussed when it comes to goals, and this is the danger of goals. As I just demonstrated, I am a huge fan of goals. I think when I find an area of my life that's not working, I basically don't have a goal in that area. Like, it's pretty simple because not working doesn't happen with a goal. If you have a goal, it's like, I'm not quite hitting a goal, I have to troubleshoot. It's so much, your brain will be so much more productive around that area of life. But I have an area where I'm just like, this isn't going well, this is just bad. I either don't have a goal or I forgot my goal. This also ties quite a bit back into the whole idea of being in your lane, right? One of the ways of being in your lane is to have your own goal. Because if you're focused on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to create, you just have less time to focus on what he should be doing and what he should be trying to create, right? Because you have something to put your brain to work on. But with all of that said, there are times where we use goals to our detriment. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have them, but I want you to know what these dangers are, to know that this is an inaccurate, an incorrect use of goals, and it actually will not help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Number one is using your goals to beat yourself up. We see this most often in weight loss. If you think about people who are trying to go on a diet and they have this number in their head and they assign some kind of moral thing to that number, right? Whether that's that then they get to call themselves beautiful, or then they get to call themselves healthy or in control, or whatever the thing is. They create some kind of heavy morality around some number on a scale. And then until they've hit that goal, they give themselves permission to treat themselves terribly and to talk to themselves terribly, which of course we have plenty of conditioning to help us think of things that we can say to ourselves in that area, right? If you have a goal for your house, you want your home to be more organized. You see, this is one that comes up for me a lot, so I tend to pull on that for an example. And until you've hit your goal, that means that you're a slob or you're lazy or you just can't get your act together. So this is a wrong use of goals. The goal is not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The goal, you're not achieving the goal because then you get to be a good person or because then you get to be proud of yourself. The process of getting your goal should be even better than the goal itself. If you think about it, if somebody was capable of running a marathon without ever training for it, they just had to work really hard the day of the marathon. But then they missed out on all the months that they would be training and eating healthy and taking care of themselves and getting sleep and whatever else you need to do to train for a marathon, which I don't know, right? So something is lost there. Something is lost in not having that process of working towards something. As I demonstrated in the whole first part of this episode, if you think about it, nothing that I was talking about in the value of having a goal actually had to do with accomplishing the goal, actually had to do with arriving at the goal. Now, is the arrival nice? Sure. You get to celebrate when you've arrived. I do celebrate when I've hit my goals, but most of the time, by the time I've achieved the goal, it's such an obvious done deal because I've become the kind of person who, of course, is going to achieve that goal, that it's like not surprising. It's just like, no, now we get to celebrate that whole process. It's like a very calm and natural and relaxed celebration. So when you make the end of the goal the only thing that matters and not the process, then you end up using the goal often to beat yourself up or to judge yourself or to withhold from yourself. Like you don't get to enjoy yourself until you've hit this goal or whatever the thing is. This is a misuse of a goal. And it's probably the most common way that people use goals outside of coaching, if you think about it, right? Another misuse of goals is to use them to deny our current experience. So what does that mean? That means being so laser focused on your goal that nothing that's actually happening in your life right now can matter. So that's why I was saying this is such a great week for me to be doing this, because I had this crazy stomach bug last week. I was mostly unconscious for 2 days. I haven't been that sick in a really long time. Even one of my kids ended up going to urgent care and I wasn't even conscious for the whole process. Like it was just done without me because I was completely unavailable. Then as soon as I start, this is like not one that's just, wrapping up and moving on. Like I'm still definitely under the weather and a little weak and just kind of still coming back to myself. And now I have 2 kids that have the same virus. So we're just like continuing this process is just going to sweep through the family, I guess. If I would use my goal to deny that right now I need rest And right now I deserve to take care of myself. I always deserve to take care of myself, but right now I need to be taking care of myself, and I need to be thinking about what's good for my body and how I can show up for my kids that are homesick, but also, still keep my finger on the pulse of my goal, because we do have this huge program launching in 1 week, right? Moshe, please no roaring while I'm recording. Okay. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Okay. So I could be using this goal of launching this program and the number of people that I'm hoping to have in our launch and all of these things to just push away being sick. I couldn't have done anything the 2 days that I was unconscious, but basically everything else, right? Like right now, I could just be pushing myself, denying what I'm going through right now, denying what's just normal for me right now. Let's say you're trying to, I'm going to go back to the house example. You're trying to get your house organized, and then you have family come into town, and you're just ignoring the family because you're trying to get the house organized. But like really what you should want to be doing, and what you should be doing, and what you would love to be doing would be stopping with the house and enjoying your family, right? So you're sort of denying the current experience because you're so laser focused on the goal. Now, does that mean that we just give up on goals very, very lightly? No, I do see that, right? And usually that comes from not really believing that the goal is possible, or not really cultivating enough desire for what it is that you're trying to accomplish, which might come from maybe messy goal setting in the first place. Like this was never really your goal. This was just kind of one that you picked up, or just kind of letting your brain run the show and letting your brain decide if it's important or not, as opposed to really intentionally thinking about why you want this in your life. Okay, that could be those last 30 seconds could be another podcast episode, so I'm not going to go there, right? So again, I'm just going to do a quick review. The danger of goals, number one, using it to beat yourself up, right? Attaching some kind of moral weight to the goal or something like that so that you're not good enough until you've hit it. Number two, denying your current experience, not living your life because you're so focused on the goal. Again, that comes back a little bit to number one, right? You're making the goal so important instead of making it a strategic way of living your life. And the last place that we can use goals against ourselves is to invalidate what's good and important about our daily life in the meantime. So if I am trying to get the house organized and nothing is good enough for me, nothing is okay unless I've hit that goal or I'm working towards that goal. Nothing else registers. I'm not present for the rest of my life because I've just become so zombie focused on the goal of getting the house organized that I'm using the goal against myself. Okay? So you'll really be able to get a feel for this if you just keep your finger on your pulse of, is this goal serving me? Is this goal having me show up the way that I want to more in my life? And of course, you get to be human and you get to have bad days and all of those things. But just in general, is this having me be more of who I want to be in my life? Is this having me, am I moving closer to the goal? And if not, I want you to stop and really look at your thinking about the goal. What do you think about this goal? Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's too hard? Do you think you shouldn't have to have this goal? Because you shouldn't have to have the challenge in the first place. Someone else should be helping. Someone else should be doing this, right? What is your thinking about it that will really, really help you get clear? And of course, I'm going to be saying this on all the podcasts now. If you want more coaching on this, guess where you can do that? All of you. Next week. Make sure you're on my email list. You really want to be on my email list because doors are going to be opening, but I have a special thing just for Hanukkah for signing up for How to Glow. It's a very special thing that you want. If you want coaching, you want to be signing up this Hanukkah. So make sure you're on my email list, kaylalevin.com/coaching, or just click on where it says work with Kayla. And there's a spot right there to get on the wait list where I will let you know as soon as doors are open, everything that you need to know to sign up. And I will be able to coach you on your goals. If you don't know how to set a goal, you're not sure where you want to set a goal, or you've set a goal and you see that you're falling into one of these traps, come on and get coached. I look forward to working with you. It's going to be so amazing. Okay, have a wonderful week, everyone, and I'll see you back here next week with our last in the series, which is, I'm going to surprise you. You'll see next week. Okay, bye-bye.